Welcome to my show, the Energetic Agriculture Podcast. I'm David Wexler, and I'm going to show you how you could massively improve the growth of your plants using electricity, magnetism, and beyond. In this episode, I'd like to give you an overview into many of the effects that can be observed when applying the methods of energetic agriculture to your plants and crops. In the last episode, I shared with you my origin story, where I told you about my first experiences with growing Romanesco broccoli. In that case, the primary effects that I saw were much faster growth from the electrified version, ever-increasing differences in leaf and stem size, and much deeper green leaf coloring compared to the control plants. In the end, the plants not only grew faster, but they were much larger in size too. Many of the growers who use energetic agriculture see similar effects, but the effects go way beyond that. Let's dive in. When you first start growing with electrified crops, the first effect that can usually be seen is faster growth. Why does this happen? At a high level, the researchers in this field have discovered that electroculture is great at stimulating plants towards synthesizing their own growth hormones. Some growers look to improve the growth of their crops, adding artificially produced or extracted growth hormones. And while this can be effective, with electroculture the same thing can be attained very easily and organically too. Alongside faster growth, there tends to be a lot more growth. As I mentioned earlier in my own test, where the size of the leaves were the first thing I noticed, over time the stem heights were larger and they were also thicker than the control groups. What this means for your crops is that they'll be stronger and bulkier, which is a great thing if you're looking for hardy plants that will be more resistant to high winds, or if you're growing plants especially or specifically for biomass, like corn for biofuel. In addition to more growth in the leaves and stems, in some plants there tends to be an increase in the number of budding sites. This equates to a greater amount of flower and fruit that can be produced, which is a contributing factor in the achieving of greater yields. The last part where there tends to be massive increases in growth is the root system. If you were to do the research, there's a ton of studies into electroculture that show the results in pictures where it's become very apparent that there's a significant amount of increased root growth as a result of it. And that's just the beginning. There are many, many more factors at play at the root level that are fascinating that electroculture accentuates. Pigmentation changes are another effect that can be seen. I remember seeing in many of my own grows that the plants grown over electroculture would become much greener in color compared to the control plants. This can also be seen with outdoor plants just after a thunderstorm, where the green plants transform into those that are sometimes deeper in color, and often changes can be seen in flowers as well, with their various colors popping with depth and brightness. Of course, one of the most desirable effects is that of yield, or how much the crop produces. Energetic agriculture in general is capable of blowing you away in terms of yield. Gains up to and over 300% have been realized over a wide variety of cultivars, ranging from cereal grains to tomatoes to berries to salad greens and so on. With effects ranging from large amounts of biomass to heavyweight fruits, it's no wonder that some of the most successful large vegetable growers use some form of energetic agriculture as part of their repertoire. With regards to fruit and vegetable yield, I've seen two different forms of it. Either in the form of more fruits forming at the budding sites, or they just end up being a larger size. For some varieties of plants, you won't necessarily see enormous leaves or fruits, but you will get to harvesting maturity 2 to 4 weeks ahead of normal schedule. This can help with attaining better commodity pricing, or for the intensive grower, you may be able to work in additional growth cycles within the current year. Another effect on the end product that is often experienced is having fruits and vegetables with greater amounts of sweetness and flavor. Energetic agriculture enhances many of the plant's natural processes, including those around the production of sugars. Improvements in flavor can also be brought about from greater nutrient density and from enhanced uptake that occurs throughout the root system. Lastly, electroculture also affects the plant's gene expression, which can also be a factor. These days on store shelves, there are a number of new specialty flavor profiles that were never there before. One of my favorites is cotton candy grapes. While there hasn't been much formal research in this particular area as it applies to the realms of energetic agriculture, it's another area ripe for research. As a last example of this category, this can also occur in the cannabis world, affecting flavor and chemical profiles. In one case, it caused a high times competitor to win an award based on the effects that came about from jolting the seeds with high voltage. I'll go more into the particulars in another episode. Lastly, one of the areas I'm most fascinated about is in how energetic agriculture can be extremely effective in healing sick or diseased plants. One of my favorite examples is from my own yard. Many years ago, my wife and I bought a small peach tree which we installed into our garden. For more than 4 years, the tree produced no fruit, and upon closer inspection it became obvious why. The tree fell into some sort of disease condition where the bark was severely peeling from the trunk, and the fruits never made it to maturity, falling off early with copious amounts of clear goo coming out of them. So in year 5 or so, I hooked up one of my electroculture devices to the tree for a few weeks in the fall, and to my surprise, the next spring and summer we started seeing our first set of healthy fruits. It seemed like a miracle, and we were amazed at the possibility of electricity as a potential healing modality. Kind of makes sense if you think about it, as we use electricity in all sorts of human and animal-related healing activities. So it only makes sense that it would work on plants too. In summary, I've shared some of the effects that can be gained from the use of energetic agriculture on your plants. There's faster germination, changes in sweetness and flavor, pigmentation changes, higher yields or faster growth, and even the healing of disease. This is actually just the tip of the iceberg, as there is much more going on here, and we'll cover much more of it in the future. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to hear more, hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my podcast newsletter on my website, electricfertilizer.com. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or if you have any topics you'd like me to cover. See you on the next episode of the Energetic Agriculture Podcast.